Hello, and welcome to I'll Knit With You. My name is Rebecca. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, Steam, and anywhere else as Evil Twin 2. You can find show notes on the blog, owlknitwithyou.blogspot.com, or come join us on our Ravelry group, I'll Knit With You. You can introduce yourself there if you are new to the podcast, and if you are new, this is maybe not the episode you want to start on. I've been not podcasting for a little bit because I've had some major life changes. But if you are returning, welcome back. And if you're new and you want to watch it anyway, I'm like, I can't stop you. Like, enjoy it. So, hi. How are all my owls and my yous? I'm going to skip, we had some introductions. We're going to skip those for now because I have a lot to talk about. And I don't want you guys to feel overshadowed by all of my things. So, first off, you may notice my background is totally different. That is because in December, I got a new job and I moved from Illinois to New York City. Yeah, so I actually live in Queens, not in Manhattan itself, but I cannot believe I live here. It's incredible. I just moved into my apartment at the beginning of this month, and then it took me a week. My parents came out and visited the following weekend. And my dad was brave enough to drive around and help me get furniture picked up. We went to IKEA and got some shelves instead of the Billy shelves. I got a secondhand couch, which was pretty amazing. I have my quilt displayed on it that I knit myself. And I finally actually have my space kind of set up and can get back to talking to you guys. It is really weird. Everything that happened super fast. My friend works at a post-production place for documentaries called Jigsaw Productions, which is where now I work. And he let me know of an opening they had that he thought would be great for me. And I gave him my resume, and about 3 days later I had the job. And this was early December, and I was told I would start January. So I had enough time to do Christmas with my family, pack up, and leave. Like, I literally packed my stuff the Saturday after Christmas. And so there's some Christmas presents I got that immediately just got put right into boxes and brought out here with me. Or put into boxes, and I didn't see them again until I had an apartment. I had set a delivery date for the U-Haul to be brought to New York, and then you can schedule a delivery for them to bring, let me back up. So I did the U-Haul crate, I think, a box crate, something like that. And it's basically a movable storage unit that you fill up with your stuff, and then they'll drive it to where you need to drive it, rather than you renting a truck and driving it yourself. We actually figured out it would save us some money to do it this way. Us being my parents helping me move. So I filled up my crate before I left, and then flew out here and had my crate scheduled for delivery in mid-February, because I wasn't sure how long it would take me to get an apartment. And then it got delivered when my parents were visiting to help me move into my apartment, and I didn't have any of my stuff till then except for what I put in about 2.5 suitcases, half because one of them was a carry-on size. It was crazy, you guys. I lived without my stash. I totally did it, but I visited a lot of yarn stores. My friends who lived here said, if you can get this job, then you can come stay with us until you find the perfect apartment. And I think I found a really great apartment. I'll show it to you guys at the end. I'll do a little tour. But it's kind of a mess right now because I am still moving in, obviously. So there's just a couple things that are all over the place. A lot has happened, and I actually live within yarn store distance now. It's crazy the things that you can get at any time of day. I had visited New York once before, but I had never lived here, obviously. So this is a huge change for me, and I love every second of it. I have been to, I want to say it's Annie's Needle and Company yarn store and Knitty City, which I had been to before. They're both very awesome. When I got here in January, I realized that Vogue Knitting Live was coming up, so I was also able to attend that this year, which was fantastic, but a little claustrophobic. I just kind of felt super overwhelmed by the crowds. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of really cool vendors, and it was amazing to get to go to, but I didn't stay for any of the events because I'd go and I would shop and I would just be like, ugh, I can't handle this, and then I would kind of leave. So it was a blast though, and I hope that the next time I go I'm not so just totally overwhelmed. Sorry, my mom called, and pretty much when that happens now, it's at least a 40-minute to 1 hour thing because she's not used to having me so far away and having me live in the city is hard for her. So anyway, I'm still going to SSK this summer. I'm working on getting that all figured out with work and plane tickets, which is a thing I have to do now. But I'm still super psyched for it. One big thing that we're doing in the podcast, and I should have told you this like November, December, and not near the end of March, but that's just how things worked out. Although that's not what I wanted to do, but it's just what worked out. We're doing the name of it is called we're doing the Great Podcaster Knit Together, and this is a year-long knit-along. You have to be part of my Ravelry group and part of the Great Podcaster Knit-along group to enter to win, and I'll be sharing a link in the show notes and in the podcast group. Your project has to use at least 10 yards of yarn. Individual socks count until you finish the pair. One pair will only count for one entry. Any project you finish in 2019 will count. If it's not a Ravelry craft, such as scrapbooking, latch hooking, quilting, sewing, needlepoint, and holiday baking will count, but you must post before and after photos so we can see the progress. And you're, of course, allowed to dip in other owls, cows, knit-alongs, mystery knit-alongs, whatever you can think of. So they have their own prizes in the Great Podcaster Knit Together. I will have prizes, but I don't have them today. One thing that I thought a lot about while I didn't have my stash with me is the amount of stash that I have. And you can kind of see in this cabinet behind me, this is one of the Billy cabinets that I got. It goes up quite a bit, and it's really packed with fiber and yarn. I have two of these. The other one has more books, more movies, and stuff like that, but then also is pretty packed with hand-spun fiber and a blanket's worth of yarn. What I'd love to do is I started doing, what's it called? I started doing Stash Fit, which is something I heard about on the Knit More Girls podcast. And it's kind of, I know there's been this whole like Marie Kondo, like tidying up Netflix series. I did the whole, not to be like a hipster about it, but like I did the whole Marie Kondo organizing my life a couple years ago. And so I downsized a lot. And then when I moved, I brought as little as I could because I knew that I didn't know what space I'd have, and I didn't want to have so much that it was overwhelming. Like, what if I moved into a place with a roommate and then all the pots and pans and stuff that I bought would be ridiculous. So I did pack my whole stash. I just didn't have the heart to go through it right then. That was too much upheaval and turmoil to like think get rid of a bunch of stash. I did give away a lot of maybe like 7, somewhere between 7 and 12 skeins to my knitting group. Just like, here, I love you guys. I've had these for a while. They're beautiful. Please knit with them. But I don't think I took them out of my Ravelry stash. And then I bought all this stuff at Vogue Knitting Live and the 2 yarn shops I mentioned earlier. And I haven't entered those into my stash. So I need to pull my stash out of these cabinets. I need to organize it. I need to go through Stash Fit and figure out what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep and what I can realistically use in the next 2 years. One thing they talk about in the Stash Fit like work through guide is that a knitter needs to have only about 2 years worth of yarn in their stash because you bring in new stuff all the time that you want to use. And so if you have more than 2 years, that stuff that's older may not ever get used, which is pretty interesting to me. Although I do like to do a lot of scrap blankets, like a lot of scrap blankets. And so little bits and bobs, like, I don't know if you can see this shelf right here. This is all pre-skeined yarn. I love that kind of stuff because it means I can pick it up right now, I can knit something small, and I can be done, which is also key for the Harry Potter Knit Crochet House Cup. So I'll be weighing some options, and of course I'm allowed to keep whatever I want to keep, like it's my yarn. But going through all of that, I think will help me figure out some fantastic prizes of yarn I've already bought, that I already have, that I'd love to share with you guys, that I picked out because I thought it was so special that I needed to have it, and then realized that I love how it looks so much that I can never knit it. Because I have some yarn like that that's just so beautiful, I can never knit it. and it's time to share it with someone else. So I'll be sharing prizes once I get that done. I'm hoping to have that done sometime in April, because then April's my birthday month, and I can maybe put a couple things back in the shelves that are new. It's my birthday month, so we'll just figure out how it goes. But the Great Podcast Knit Together is going on. Please join us. The hashtag for that is hashtag the Great Podcaster K2Tog, like knit together. So feel free to put that on Instagram or wherever. Okay. One last thing is what I've been reading and watching. So I've been watching Captain Marvel. I've seen it twice. It's so good. If you like any type of comedic superhero movie, think like Thor Ragnarok, but not quite that funny, Captain Marvel hits that just right. I really like the way the story went. I like the way it was acted. I like the way it was directed. I do know the origin story is a little different than how it is in the comics, from what I hear. I've read the comics myself, and I think what they did was smart, and it's just a really good movie. And I've really liked that actress for a while, Brie Larson, I think is her name. I'm so bad with names. She was also in Community, which I had just watched with my friends I was staying with, since I have Hulu and they didn't. We watched all of Community right before I moved out. Like, we started it when I moved in, and we finished it right before I moved out. It was great. So she's just been in a lot of things. Kind of how I feel about Anna Kendrick. She was just in a lot of things until all of a sudden, big blow up. And so I think she deserved it. She seems like a sweet and sarcastically funny person. So Captain Marvel, so great. 2 thumbs up. But now what you're really here for is all of the knitting. So let's talk about some woes and some woes. The first thing I have is the Northeasterly blanket. I know during Advent in December, these were everywhere. I, of course, started one because how can you not? One thing that I did in December is I had a David's Tea Advent calendar, and I filled all the little squares with tiny balls of yarn, and then whatever I picked out, I tried to knit. I didn't keep up with it as much as I wanted to, but I got a lot done. So here is my first side. So many pretty yarns. And then I bought a gradient ball of yarn at Vogue Knitting Live, which is this. It was just a mini, which is perfect for this. So here is that next to some of this. So I tried to make it queen bed length, but I don't know that I got there. I got really tired of knitting one stripe, I'll tell you that much. I'm so used to modular blankets where you can pick up and cast off and then join later. Like, I like that, or I like a 2-hour blanket square. So then to have something that feels never ending was a little more difficult than I thought it would be. My colors are all over the place, but I'm hoping to kind of tie them in with more solids and striping yarns as I go through. This is very back burnery for me. I can't really figure out how to work it so that I can turn it in for the Harry Potter Knit Crochet House Cup. So for me, it's just kind of whenever I feel like it kind of thing, a little bit here, a little bit there. What I've been struggling to find are projects that are small enough that I can get them out on the subway. I don't always get a seat on the subway. Sometimes in the morning it's pretty packed. So I try to find things that don't make the person standing or sitting next to me feel like I'm going to jab them in the eye. But most of my knitting is now public knitting, which is weird, which means no charts, which I love. Color work is out the window. Most of those kind of things. So it has to be basic knits, it has to be stockinette, and it has to be unexciting, or garter if it's, you know, front and back. So I'm learning what works and what doesn't work. And you're going to see that in my whips, I feel like, a lot from now on, but especially in the next two. So since I am going to the Super Summer Knit Together in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee this summer, they have a teacher knit along where the teachers that they have, you can pick from patterns they've written, and then you can, if you finish stuff, enter it in to win tickets. Tickets could equal door prizes, so it's kind of like a domino effect. If you use yarn from a person that's going to be vending extra tickets. If you use hand spun from a person that's vending, extra tickets. So let's just say I'm working on this. Since I love hip strings and have made at least one sweater from them and have so much fiber I really need to spin from them, I decided to do a hip strings, what's it called? It's called the Plum Cove shawl. So it is a solid color shawl where you do a contrasting color stripe. So these dark stripes that you see, that is actually a different yarn. That's the yarn I use for my sweater. Since it's hand spun, I'm not worrying too much about gauge because my yarn weights are all over the place, and my hand spun is too, because when it comes to multi-fiber hand spun, I kind of just let it do what it wants to do and I run with it. But you can see that the stripes don't reach this top edge. Some of them are really long, some of them are really short, little stripes. But I really like the effect that it gives, this like Northern Lights starburst pattern. So this is hip strings. I know that there are names for these fibers, and now I'm blanking on them. I think, give me 1 second and I'll get that information for you. I'm sorry. I'm not always perfect. Okay, so there is a bit of lighter, and especially now that I hold it up, I really can't see it at all, which is pretty great. There's some lighter lines in here where it's almost white. Now see, I can't even pick one out. Like this here is lighter for sure, and you can kind of see them spread throughout. They're almost like a grayish purple. That is Unicorn Fluff sample. I got a sample box, and it's hard to know which ones are called what. So it's in that Unicorn Fluff sample series. But the main color, this purpley pinky goodness, that is Soulmate by Hip Strings. And then the dark color is called Space Unicorn. It's the one that I knit my sweater out of. Sorry, this is a whole different setup for me. I'm at a different height than normal. Like, all of my personal podcast settings are just out the window. I have different lights. I have a different everything. So I'm just trying to figure out what to say and how to give you information, and I'm sorry if it's not perfect. So it's gonna be a great big triangle shawl. And like most triangle shawls, you start off small and then you just keep growing until it's so big you can't handle it. And the way that I'm deciding how long to make it is when I run out of this yarn, which I don't have very much left of, and this is the Soulmate, then I'll be done. I made a binding off with the Space Unicorn because I just have so much more of it. I actually have a whole other skein of this. So, but even in this, you can see there's blues and purples and pinks, lights and darks. It's just a lot of fun. And when I realized I could use the Hip Strings hand spun to knit with for like bonus points, I was over the moon, because this yarn, I mean, their stuff is so fun to spin. But there you can see the little short ones. But look how great these go together. It's just so much fun. I love it. Okay, what's next? What's next is I love me a good knit along, and one of the knit alongs that I have thrown myself into this year is the Eat, Sleep, Knit Blanket Knit Along. They do one every year, or at least they've started doing one every year. I don't know how long it's been going on, because I feel like I didn't notice it until 2 years ago, and then last year, no, I'm sorry, 3 years ago, this was 2 years ago, this blanket behind me, the Persian Dreams. Last year was the Hue Shift, which I started pretty late in the game and didn't end up finishing because I found out I was moving and there really wasn't time. I had to pack everything. And this year is a temperature cal. So you've seen the blankets where you switch colors for the different temperatures. This one is less structured. It's kind of just like, make a temperature item. You have to represent 52 data points. So what I'm doing, because I'm completely insane, is my temperature cal is a beekeeper's quilt, because I've started one before and I really want to have one, and then I want to be done with it, I think. And so to make a temperature point for every day is a pretty small blanket. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the high and low for every day temperature, because I'm crazy. And they only take each Hexie Puff takes me 20 minutes. But I'm joining them so that I can keep my days together. So instead of binding off at the end of a Hexie Puff, I'm doing two Hexie Puffs smooshed together. And I have a whole listing of my temperatures. So Lorna's Laces Geyser, which is this gray and purple, there's some purple in there, is 0 to 10 degrees. Lorna's Handmade Minis Glacier is from 11 to 20. They're all 10 ranges. Miss Crosby's Spangled Katina is, I'm trying to pick out which one it is from all this stuff. It's this one, and it is 21 to 30 degrees. Miss Crosby's, most of these are Miss Crosby's satchel bases. I had enough that I was thinking about doing a hue shift with it, and then I didn't end up doing it. They're all single yarn, so they're not plied, and they're beautiful. And I meant for them to be used in shawls, and I just felt like they kind of go together, but not so much that I don't know. It never became anything. And so it's one of those things I was looking at, and I was like, I have this, it needs to become something. So Varied Bunting is my 31 to 40 range. Miss Crosby's Peacock is my 41 to 50 range. It's like lots of blues and some greens. 51 to 60 is Enchanted Forest, very green. 61 to 70, I had a problem with this one breaking. I think I was being too rough with my winder. I don't think it was the yarn's fault at all. So I have 2 smaller cakes of this, but I have 1 full skein. Miss Crosby's Hosta is 61 to 70 degrees. Lorna's Laces Zombie Barbecue, which I thought was kind of a fun, like, it's hot but it's not too hot colorway. And this was the first yarn that I bought from Eat Sleep Knit. So I felt like it needed to be in a blanket for them. Lorna's Laces Soulmate on the Zombie Barbecue colorway. And then I have Miss Crosby's Buttercup, which I have not caked up yet because I haven't gotten to 81 to 90 degrees in New York yet. It's yellows and grays. Oh, there's fuzzies in the air. And then 91 to 100 is Swoosh Lemon Drop. It's kind of getting hot. And then I want to find a good red for anything over 101. But I haven't experienced that yet, so I don't have to have it yet. So altogether, I think a lot of these yarns look really great together. Like, they kind of look like they belong. Then there are some outliers with the grays and reds and yellows, but that's kind of when you're getting to the hotter end of the temperature. So I don't know that you'll see, you know, this and this together, but I also don't hate it. You will see it laying next to each other in the blanket. So I tried to find things that were less indicative of color and more, yeah, I would put that all in a blanket together. So, my nose is itchy now, sorry. My first one is Enchanted Forest and Varied Bunting, which means that the temperature was between 31 to 40 for the high. I'm sorry, 31 to 40 for the low and 51 to 60 to the high. So it's the high and low from each day. And there it is, joined together. So, never to be ripped asunder. So I don't know how I'm going to lay them out like this and have all the highs on one side and all the lows on the other side. I have a beautiful spreadsheet to help me figure out how all this is going to work out. But for now, I'm just knitting the pieces. So what I didn't think about for subway knitting is that now I have to carry 2 cakes of yarn in my purse instead of 1. But there are some days where it's the same color for the high and the low. It didn't change between 10 degrees. So that'll be easier. This is all living in my 2018 Super Summer Knit Together bag. So it just makes me happy with its bees. This is a, it's a Fat Squirrel bag. I was like, what's her name? How do you forget? It's a Fat Squirrel bag. But my priority is my Plum Cove shawl. And then my next priority is the blanket. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, stockinette stitch, garter stitch, easy to creases, easy to memorize patterns. I miss it. I miss charts. But you gotta walk before you can run. We can't do charts on a subway. I'll have to figure it out. This is when I wish the Google Glass, remember when they're gonna make those glasses? If that had been a thing and I could look at a chart while I was on the subway and not have to balance it on my purse, like that would be amazing. I found that I've had to change purses, like what I take as a purse has changed. I have to wear something that's crossbody now because to balance something on my shoulder for that long is exhausting. My subway ride ends up to be about 45 minutes, including the walk to the subway and the walk from the subway to work, which is probably about 12 minutes total. My walk in the morning is really great. I walk past a Starbucks and a bagel place for breakfast, which makes me super happy. So it's really just a great morning every morning, except when I'm running late and it takes 45 minutes to get to work and I can't do anything about it. So that is a little more than frustrating, but life goes on. I do have some defeated foes. I tried to catch everything I've done since the last podcast. I may have missed something, but I'm doing my best to catch up, and from here it should be easier. Let's all hope. There are some things I've given away because I have some really worthy friends now, who like let me live with them and all sorts of stuff, and I've made stuff specifically for them. So I made my first pair of socks on the subway. This is them. This is String Theory yarns, and every stripe is part of a sequence of a chemical compound. I would tell you what these are, but wouldn't it be great if you could just look in the show notes and read it for yourself? I don't remember off the top of my head. There's a lot of scientific terms that I would butcher, so I'm going to let you enjoy that yourself. I also made the Heinery hat, which I gave to one of my friends. I did it on worsted weight yarn, and I think it calls for bulky. The worsted weight yarn that I bought is by Alex Creates. He is in Brooklyn, which is pretty close to me. I've been following him on Instagram for years, and I've never bought his stuff because sometimes you want to see it in person before you buy yarn. I'm picky about the way my textures are, especially for that much money. He makes awesome gradients. They are amazing. And I would say if you can get your hands on his yarn, please do. I found a booth that had his stuff at Vogue Knitting Live. It was the Annie's Needle Company store. They had a little basket of his stuff and it was awesome. I was over the moon. So I had to knit with it right away. I really did. I made the twist again for my friend Bree. She loves the little headbands that cover your ears because they don't mat your hair down, but they keep you warm, and that is perfect for her. So I made her one of those. I owe her another one because she picked out this yarn when she went shopping with me at Nitty City. And there's enough for two. I just haven't made the second one yet. Then I finished this hat, the Brioche Rub. It is brioche, but also crisscrossy waffly. And the best thing is since it's 2 layers of yarn, it's warm enough to wear when it's really cold outside. It was begging for a pom-pom, so I could not deny it a pom-pom. And I also bought pom-pom makers at Vogue Knitting Live, which I for some reason had not owned before. Crazy. So it's great. It actually fits me really well. I really like this hat. If you didn't know, the pom-pom was invented so people in submarines wouldn't bonk their heads on the ceilings, which is like one of my favorite facts. And so this protects my noggin, my 5-foot height self, from bumping into things like that's ever happened. It has not. And then I was working on a super secret knit that I couldn't show you. And it is like 99.9% finished. I just need to put my seams in, or I need to weave in my ends and finish my armpit seams. But it is the Go Big or Go Gnome sweater. It's amazing. This is by Imagine Landscapes. It has gnomes across the top. And then it has mushrooms across the bottom. I know. I really want to find this purple. This is the wrong weight for the hat. She has a human gnome hat that I want to make. The one thing that I found about this is that there's a lot of space between here, the gnomes, and the neckband. And I think for me, I needed to take about half that space out. This is another reason I haven't finished it all the way. I need to take some of that out and then make my neck closer because my shoulders aren't very wide. And so, since I have skinny shoulders, even though I picked the right pattern size, like, it hangs off me a little bit, and whenever I pull it up to where the armpit holes hit my armpits, I feel like the sweater itself is the right size for me, but whenever I leave it the way it is, it's baggy, because everything then is shaped in the wrong spot. And her pattern, this is, I think, one of her first sweaters. It's an amazing pattern. It's really perfect. I test knit it, and so there are going to be flaws, and there are going to be things that she clears up before the pattern's published. It is published now, and it's amazing. Go knit you one. But for me, I need to tweak just a couple of things before I want to wear it outside my house. But I made it out of my Handmaiden in this gray colorway that I bought so much of that I'm now almost done with. I just keep knitting sweaters out of this Handmaiden gray. It's a single ply, but it's half silk, and it is basically the softest, most luxurious yarn in the world. I also made my sock arms out of this gray, and it just makes me really happy. I don't know why. I know why I bought so much of it, because for each sleep knit, a sweater quantity is 6 skeins. This is a 500 skein, 500 yard put up and a skein. I think it might be more than that, actually. It's so soft. It's never itchy. They make the best sweaters, but it's single ply, so then supposedly you'll get pilling, but I think the silk helps with that. But I'd love to wear this before it's too warm to wear it. I just need to finish it, and I don't know why I haven't. I don't know. And I got really stressed out about it because I was supposed to be working on it, and then I moved and I didn't finish it in time, which just like really stresses me out. So I think because of all that, and on top of all that, I love this sweater, but looking at it makes me feel really guilty. Even though I've talked to Sarah about it, Imagine Landscapes, and I was like, here's what's going on. I just can't do this. Like, I'm so sorry. I'll get it done as fast as I can. I told her I'd have pictures up like 3 months ago. I still haven't done that either. This is the first time the world has seen the sweater. It's just one of those things that, like, I love it and it's beautiful, but knowing what happened on the way through the sweater, I do not like that at all. I don't like this sweater I knit on before and after moving. Like, it's too much. And I think working on it now, like, makes me stressed out because I think about how I feel like I didn't keep up with that timeline and how I failed. And so I need a little more space before I can refinish it, especially if I'm going to rip out the neckband. And I need to put some pins in it and try some things, and not safety pins, but like those locking stitch markers, and try some things before I go and pull out like a huge chunk of stockinette stitch. But it's so cute! But also, fingering weight sweaters aren't crazy warm, so I don't know, you guys. Go big or go gnome. That's all I know. I should go big or I should go gnome. Maybe this will be my next weekend's project. The really crazy thing is that since I live in New York and I'm still making friends, I don't have 1,000 plans every weekend. And I've never lived a life like that where I didn't have family plans, friend plans, I'm usually packed to the gills in plans. But I'm not here. It's weird. I sat at home yesterday. I had unpacked the previous weekend as much as I could. I binged watched Star Trek yesterday, and that's not something I normally do. I mean, I had some days off for sure, but I also don't have a roommate anymore, and I've had a roommate for several years, and before that I had a different roommate. Like, I've always had roommates except for about six months. Then my brother moved into my apartment before he got married, and then he moved out and my new roommate moved in. But here, this place is just mine. I can leave yarn in the living room. I can leave my projects everywhere. I have a room that's just for crafts. I'll show you. It's just really exciting, and I kind of can't get over it. And it means that when I want to sit on the couch all day, no one's going to interrupt me. So that's kind of weird. And I'm definitely still getting used to it. So, ta-da! But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and then give you a short tour. But I know sometimes moving videos make people a little motion sick, so I'm giving you the warning now that, like, when I say goodbye, the next thing you're going to see is the me walking around with a camera. And you don't have to watch it. I love you guys no matter what. You don't even need to see what a cabinet looks like. You know what a cabinet looks like. So, whether you're sitting in your forever home and you're happy as a clam, or your life is in constant turmoil and you really hope that you still live in this apartment next year, either way, I'll knit with you. Bye, guys. Okay, so this is my first craft cabinet. This is my hand spun blanket and some fiber. I have my TV. I had some lights that were helping me knit by. And here we have more fiber, the big yarn chaos stash, cakes. These aren't called skeins. I'm not sure what they're called. Hanks maybe of yarn. This is like fiber and skeins. A lot of fiber. That's most of the Supernatural stuff that I bought at the end of the year. And then this room really isn't finished yet. This is my very big craft room. This is a piece of countertop from IKEA. It's 75 inches long, and I bought these drawers from Michaels. They're full of all sorts of crafting things. And there's this shelf in the way, so I can't show you everything, but the shelf is also going to hold some amazing stuff. It doesn't quite yet. I got a Cricut for Christmas, so I have vinyl hanging on my wall and Cricut mats over there. But there's really just boxes of everything everywhere in this room. It's one of the few rooms I don't have to have done for anyone but me. But you can see I prioritize getting a skein winding area set up pronto because I have that kind of priorities. So eventually I would love for this to become maybe my podcasting room, depending on the echo. The problem is that if I have guests here, this is also my guest bedroom. It's my mattress and box springs for guests. My parents, when they were visiting and helping me move, we found someone selling a bed for super cheap, and it's very nice. They were just moving. It happens a lot. So we picked that up. We bed bug bagged the mattress, so we don't have to worry about that. And yeah, so now they have a place to sleep that's not an air mattress, which is pretty great. So this isn't going to be really for yarn crafting. This room kind of gets warm because of the lighting, but it's really great for craft room storage and small projects on my desk. And that's a little peek at what my apartment looks like. There's still a lot to do. There's a lot of things furniture-wise I want to get, like little tables for chords and a record player table shelf thing. But it's really exciting to get to build my own space and not get a bunch of hand-me-down furniture and like, oh, my roommate bought this, so now we have this couch and we have this chair and it's all just whatever. I feel like I can decide what I want, and if I don't like something, I don't have to buy it just because it's cheap, because no one needs to sit on these couches but me. So, although I like having my friends over, don't misunderstand. It's just, you know, the freedom to decide what goes in here is pretty great. But I haven't really figured out when this room is filled with natural light. If you can't tell, I'm filming like at 10 o'clock at night. And so it seems like my bedroom is unfortunately the room that's flooded with light. And this room is flooded with light until about 10 a.m., which is not me on the weekends. I'm not going to get up early. I won't do anything. I'm going to do that first. So I'm still trying to figure out the when of recording, but I'm going to try and do this weekly. I don't know if I'm going to have enough stuff to talk about weekly. We'll just figure it out. But yeah, thanks for sticking with me, and I hope to bring you a billion more great podcasts. And if you have great suggestions for easy knits that are still exciting, let me know. I've got some self-striping yarn that I think is going to get knit up sooner than I was expecting, because self-striping yarn in the subway is like right where it's at. You can pretty much just go forever and make nice tall socks. So we'll just see how it goes. Alright, thanks for watching the end of this. I'll let you guys go, and thanks for hanging out. Bye.